and welcome to this vlog series. I'm narrator Rebecca McKernan, and in this episode I'll be sharing with you this cheeky little novella from writer Golden Angel. She writes erotica, and this is a short, light-hearted introduction to the world of BDSM, another subject close to my heart. This is the second book in Golden Angel's Bridal Discipline series, and yeah, it's only about 2 hours long or something, so an easy listen if you would like an introduction into a very fun subject. I'll read you the back of the book. Gabrielle Astley is quite used to being an afterthought, a burden, a nuisance. As the only child, and a useless female one at that, to a baron, she was both spoiled materially and neglected emotionally. After her father's death, his third wife and her stepmother is remarried to the stern and cold Marquess of Dunbury. Since the new baron wants nothing to do with Gabrielle, the Marquess is her new guardian, and Gabrielle finds herself in London, receiving her debut. Despite this turn of events, she can't quite shake her spite of her stepmother, and her attitude lands her into hot water and her first spanking at the hand of her guardian. The Marquess seems eager to marry her off, and Gabrielle has no objection to that goal. London has everything she has ever wanted: glamour, excitement, and for some reason, quite a few people actually seem to like and take an interest in her. When the Marquess's best friend, the rakish Felix Hood, becomes one of those people, Gabrielle finds herself hoping for more than just a standard ton marriage, until she begins to realise that he's not interested in her for herself, and his interest may actually be in someone close to her. Felix Hood had no thoughts of settling down in marriage. As the youngest of 3 brothers, he should be the last to wed. However, when he meets his best friend Philip's new ward, and is tasked with the duty of helping guard her against any unsavoury suitors, as well as guarding Philip's new wife from Miss Astley's waspish tongue, he can't help but be entranced by her. She's not the usual milk and water miss that is served up to the gentlemen of the ton. She's prickly, funny, and has a touch of sadness in her eyes that he longs to discover the cause of, so that he may vanquish it. But he's not convinced he's ready for marriage, and his hesitation over formally courting her leads Miss Astley to turn to her other suitors, making him wonder if she's really worth the chase. This book was written by Golden Angel at the request of readers who had read the first book in the series, which focuses on the marriage of the Marquess of Dunbury and Gabrielle's stepmother. And readers of this book requested to Golden Angel that she tell a bit more about the story of Gabrielle and Felix, whilst the story of her stepmother and the Marquess is going on. So this is kind of taken from the background of the first book. Book 2 is, so it wasn't very concise. should have just read the paragraph on the back of the book, but I'm going to read you the first few pages of the first chapter to give you a little taste of how it sounds. Chapter 1. It was an auspicious and shocking day. Felix Hood's best friend was getting married today. Although Philip Stanley, the Marquess of Dunbury, was 3 years older than Felix, somehow Felix hadn't thought this day would come so soon. Then again, as a younger son to a viscount, Felix didn't have the same responsibilities that Philip did. His eldest brother, Thomas, would be the one stepping into their father's shoes, and his son would follow him, unlike Philip, who had already inherited his title and thus needed his own heir. However, Felix also happened to know that Philip wasn't just marrying to ensure his lineage. He also happened to be rather enamoured of his fiancée. Felix was looking forward to meeting this paragon who had captured his friend's attention. As he walked up to the Dunbury house, the sound of voices in the alley beside it caught his attention, as did a glimpse of a pale dress. Any kind of lightly coloured finery seemed out of place in the servants' alley, which is what caused him to slow his pace, peering down the narrow walkway. A young woman, obviously a young lady, was leaning forward and talking to 2 little girls, obviously servants yet, going by their much simpler attire. Her skirts melded to her backside, which was nicely rounded and immediately drew his attention, as it would any experienced rake, especially one with his proclivities. Both little girls were clutching their dolls and very gingerly holding what looked to be 2 dresses in miniature, made with cloth much finer than that of their own clothing. The dolls' dresses were something he would expect to see a child of noble birth clothing their dolls with, not servants' children. His eyebrows rose at the sight. "We be ever so careful, miss," one of the little girls assured the young lady earnestly. "We promise." "I'm glad you like them," said the young lady, with a little laugh, her tones much more cultured than the little imps she was talking to. Although Felix couldn't see her face, he admired her light brown hair, which glinted with red and gold highlights wherever the sun caught it, and the well-proportioned figure of her backside. The 2 girls were staring up at her as if she was a goddess, as well they might. He doubted their dolls had ever received such finery before. "Now run along. I have to go." That last was said with a bitterly resigned sigh, as if she would have much preferred to stay in the alley with the 2 little girls. They thanked her again, and then ran off down the alley, obviously ecstatic over their good fortune, while the young lady slipped back into the house, using the servants' door. Felix's eyebrows felt like they'd taken up a permanent position on his forehead, as he wondered if he'd just received his first glimpse of Philip's new bride. If so, he certainly approved, although if her front was as attractive as her backside, he was also going to be eaten up with envy at his friend's good fortune. Generous, thoughtful, and endowed with posterior charms, she seemed like the perfect woman. Perhaps he'd be in luck, and she was one of the guests, preferably a widow or married with an inattentive husband, and a desire to have her passions awakened. Sorry, fluffed that last line I was going to read to you. So that was the first couple of pages of Golden Angel's Undisciplined from the Bridal Discipline series. I'm starting work on the next book in this series really soon, and it's a really fun read, really fun listen. So I highly recommend you get yourself to Audible, Amazon, or iTunes and grab yourself a copy. No, I don't have any freebies, sorry, I was just trying to remember. I'm Rebecca McKernan. You can find me at RebeccaMcKernan.com and on Facebook and Twitter at Becca Tells Tales. Thanks for listening. Bye.